Hello world, it's M4J here and welcome back to the Majeffries network here on OpenTTD. I'm staring at a blank piece of land. Well, it's not a blank piece of land, there's loads of towns and cities and industries, but there's no railways, no roads, apart from the ones that already existed, no airports, no docks, no nothing. We are going to change that by the end of today's episode. Basically, we are going to create a new city. Gardcity. I need to remember where we are. Trentborough. Remember the name Trentborough. Gardcity, over here. Greater Gardcity. Very nice, very big, very lovely. And we've got lots of link roads and railways and airports and everything coming from that. However, it's the only big city that we have in the game. Particularly in this map. We have places like Wenfingfield. And, Brenwell City, sorry. Actually, what's the population? 3,000 odd. Okay, so this is all Wenfingfield then, and I think Great Winfield has grown quite a lot as well. Wenfingfield is massive. 53,000 people. Absolutely huge. And it's only served by one station. We will fix that in the future. I'm sure we will. You can see the rapid transit coming through here. That seems to be running okay. I still want to change the route, and I will change the route in the future, but right now I'm pretty happy with it doing what it's doing. But yeah, Gardcity, very big, very nice, but we want a big city to replicate that down in the south. So I need to find Trentborough again. Big list. Trentborough. Where are we? Trentborough. There we go. We weren't that far away. Okay, so all of this area here is going to become a new city. I'm going to mark it out on the map now. I'm going to be marking out the borders of the greater and then the name of the city, which I will reveal momentarily. So, like this. I don't think that worked. Like this, and then up here to about there, along here to somewhere like this, and then down again. Hopefully that's pretty square. This is the greater area. This is bigger than, in fact, is it bigger? Greater Gardcity technically encompasses all of this area as well. So I think it is actually considerably bigger. I'm going to change that then. Because I do not want the new city to be bigger than Gardcity. Because Gardcity, for all intents and purposes, is still the capital. You know, if this country had a name, in fact, it doesn't even matter if it has a name. If this country was real and existed, Gardcity would be its capital city. So, I like that. I think that's a pretty good area there. And I'm going to do some terraforming as well before we start plugging away, building towns and cities and all of that within this new area, because we've got a blank canvas to work with here. This is basically going to be what Gardcity should have been, what I'm going to build today, which could end up spurring a series of episodes in which we go back to Gardcity and rebuild it from the ground up. Depending on people's responses, of course, to what's going on here. Let's just fix all that. There'll be a series of bridges running across there, and then here, like so. Running into that body of water. This body of water is pretty good. And then we'll dig a new canal also through this space here. Like this. Lovely. And we'll dig that out right here. So we've got some nice shipping lanes being opened up as well. And yes, we will have boats operating within this new city. Likewise, I will go back and I will finish building the rivers around Gardcity, and then we'll be able to run proper boats through there as well. The idea being that we'd be able to run barges through Gardcity to the south freight terminal, and then something similar here with a north freight terminal and a south freight terminal. Now the name of this city, the name of this new city. So Gardcity was inspired by Guard Town, which was just a random name of a town in the original OpenTTD map that the Jeffries network started on. Since then, though, I mean, Gare, G-A-R-E, is the French for railway station. So if you go to Paris, you've got Gare du Nord, you've got Gare de Lyon, you've got Gare de l'Est. You know, Gare means station. Now, that's what I love about European languages especially, because in England we do have like London King's Cross, London Waterloo, things like that. But on the continent it tends to be station of and then the name of a place. So station of the north, station of the east, station of Lyon, which is where you used to catch trains if you wanted to go to Lyon. And the Russians used that very literal thing as well. So things like St. Petersburg Station wouldn't necessarily be in St. Petersburg, it would be in Moscow. And the reason it's called that is because that's where you get the train to St. Petersburg from. Don't quote me on that, because I don't think that was ever the case, but that's the principle. So yeah, it's a very, very kooky way of doing it. But anyway, Gare is French for station. So Gardcity, station city, essentially, even though there's a spelling differentiation. With that in mind, I'm going to announce that the name of this city is Bahn City. So Bahn as in Bahnhof, which is the German for station, city. Now, I might do a variation of the spelling as well. So instead of Bahn, B-A-H-N, I might do B-A-H-E or something like that. So it has references to the German, but isn't the literal German word. I think that would work quite nicely, and it ties in nicely with the way that we named Gardcity as well. And the reason that's so prominent is I've particularly been in the Gardcity project, which is my Minecraft series that I am bringing back. Hopefully this week, actually, the first episode of the rebooted series will be back. In the history of that city for the project that I did for university last year, I mentioned that you know, the city got its name from the station in which the city was built around. And that's kind of going to be the story of the Gardcity here, and it's also going to be the story of Bath City. I'm probably going to hate saying that now. I've actually named it, but there you go. This city is of course going to need some main stations, and we're going to be planning those out today as well. We're not going to have as many as we have in Gardcity. We're probably going to have 4 main terminus stations and maybe 4 or 5 secondary stations, and then like an overground system and a metro system with their own stations as well. Each one will have a name. Each name will be themed. They won't be saints because we're doing that over at Gardcity, and to be honest, I still plan on building some new stations in Gardcity, so it'll be a bit stupid to actually take up all the names that we could end up using over here. The reason I say 4 stations is there'll be one to the north, one to the south, one to the east, and one to the west. Now the the east line will probably involve heading north as well, or maybe it'll split and go north and south. The south line, there's a coastal route that we've planned out that involves going through Plenborough Terina. That coastal route will eventually turn north via the station here and go into Bath City. And again, there'll be some kind of triangular junction, and trains will head off down this way as well, because we're still planning on building a big station and a big city down in this corner too. Like we have Sunnington, and we have Gronwell, and we have Sanley. This will also have its own big station, and it will probably be in this nice flat piece of land here. So chances are it will be named Barthingly and Pruntford. So I'm quite liking using is it ampersands, the and symbol. But yeah, I'm kind of using delaying tactics myself already, because I want to get this right, and whenever I'm in a position where I want to get something right, I always find myself delaying actually doing anything about it. So I'm going to try not to do that. It's one of the reasons why I'm recording this as a live thing and not as a time lapse, because if it was a time lapse, the footage will probably be like 10 hours long, as I'm dithering about what I'm going to do. Already, I can see the possibility of building an island in this city, so we'll do that. We might as well. I'll delete the industries here, here, and here. We'll extend this further down, like so, and then we'll extend this way. Now, when I was coming up with the idea for this episode, I very nearly built the big city over at Drentborough. And if you don't know where that is, that's over here, where we have Drentborough Radeon, which is Italian for railway. And that would have helped really nicely when it came to naming the terminus stations, because I would have just used various different European languages word for railway station. Because we're not doing that, I'm going to have to come up with a way of naming these terminus stations. So, also naming the areas of the city. So at the moment, I'm going to use default names, and wherever the stations are named, that's what they're going to be called for the time being. But, like with the route that we built between Nuthill City Centre and Gardcity St John, or technically Renston Interchange, I will be renaming the entire city after your suggestions. So if you have any suggestions for boroughs or regions of the city, head over to the network's ideas list, go into the town names one, put your YouTube username, put your town name suggestion, and then in the little note box to the right hand side of that, just put as part of Bar City, BAHECITY, and then I'll know to rename all of these. In terms of railways, I think I've already given it away, to be honest. There's going to be, I'm just deleting all the industries at the moment. There is going to be a metro system. There's going to be an overground system. Now, when I say metro and overground, it's probably going to be a bit like the S-Bahn in Berlin, where it's kind of an overground system, but it's basically a miniaturized regional rail service that just happens to cover the majority of the city. That way we can use different train types. I think we'll still be sticking with British train types, but different varieties. I'm very tempted to use the Merseyrail, the class 707s, no, not 707s, 507s and 508s. I think they would look quite nice, maybe even in Merseyrail livery. Likewise with the Metro, something a bit like, if you know what a pre-Metro is, then you'll know what I am referring to. A pre-Metro is, it's a light rail system that's built to Metro standards. So for example, the Docklands Light Railway in London, that's technically, it's a light rail system, but it's also known as, or it can also be classified as pre-Metro, because the lines can very easily be converted to Metro standards, but it's technically a light rail system. That's kind of what I want to have here. So any kind of, we're not going to be running the London Underground trains like we are in Gardcity. We're also not going to be running the Metro style trains that I've got as part of the new GRFs that I've downloaded. We're not going to have anything like that. We're going to use, again, probably British rolling stock of some variety, designed to look like Metro. Right, I think that's it for the industry bulldozing. Now I want to plan out where the stations are going to go, which is why I've got the... Actually, I should probably have the planning one open for this, just so we're not 100% committing. Now, I said there's going to be a northern, southern, eastern and western terminus, or terminals. However, they're not necessarily going to be the north terminus heads north, the south terminus heads south. There could be a passing point in the middle. And that's kind of what I'm looking at this for. Because I think a nice big interchange station here, a bit like the old Gardcity exchange that we used to have. So if I build some tracks out like this, this is going to be like our Hauptbahnhof in Berlin. but without the underground, overground stuff. It's basically all going to be at ground level. Or is it going to be at ground level? No, I think I might raise it up a tile, actually. I think I might raise it up a tile. So this is also going to be very akin to, or maybe not here, but the stations to the north of here and the south of here are going to be like Gardcity St. John and Gardcity St. Mark, in that they will have terminus platforms, they will also have through platforms. Difference being is a lot of services are going to be running through these stations rather than at Gardcity, where the majority of services actually terminate at those stations. I really hope I'm making sense with all this. Right. First thing is first, we're going to draw these out like so. So I've got a rough idea as to how long each of these platforms needs to be. That's going to be the central point there, so we'll draw some lines across like that. How many tracks is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have 2 tracks that just go straight through, like so. I think that works out quite well. And then we'll have 7 tile long platforms with some slightly longer platforms in the middle. And then here it'll just come across like this. But again, we've got to make sure that we have... If I mess this up, I think I've messed this up. Hang on. No, it needs to come across more, because that's 1, 2, 3, and whoops, 4. There we go. Right, you connect to that. These ones are then going to go a tile longer, and they're going to come down and connect up like this. And then you are going to connect to that. You're going to come across and connect to that one, and then these ones are all going to go straight across as well. In fact, this one here isn't. So I just replicate what we've got here. That'd probably be smarter, wouldn't it? Like this. Take that one out. I'll put that one in. Probably put that one in, actually. All right, that's the basic gist of what we want. And then this bit here will be like this. And then this bit here will be like this. And you get the idea. Like that. Okay. So that is 6 tracks. It should be 6 tracks. Here's the next big question. What type of platforms am I going to use? I could just use the Dutch type again. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it does a very, very good job. I really like these Dutch platforms. And then we can have like this, and like that. And then here, do the same thing. We'll drag this out like that. Like that. And that will be that all done. We'll draw that through like that. That one through like that and like that. And then here, alright, if I just raise all this up, we'll build the track and then we'll lower it all down again. So here, you come out like that, you go along one, and then you go out to there, yeah, and then you go straight in like so. This one comes out right way across, actually, by the looks of things, to there. This one comes up to here, goes along one, and then comes out like that. There we are. Right. And then that one is where it needs to be. These ones are all where they need to be, I think. That one needs to go straight across as well. There we go. I haven't even decided about electrification here, whether it's going to be electrified using third rail or overhead or a combination of the two? I genuinely do not know. So that's going to go to there, and then there'll be another crossover there. Likewise. Whoops. Come on. There'll be one there, and then there'll be also one there like that. That one will be like that. And then this comes out to here. Yeah, by the looks of things. And then these all connect up like this. And then that one goes across like that. Okay, I think that looks right. And then here it's signal, 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 signal. And then we'll chuck some here as well for good measure. Signal, 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 signal. Couple here for good measure. And then signal, 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 signal. And then these ones like that. Alright. Main station pretty much built. Right, island. Should I do island stations? Should I use the big arch instead? I could do that. Dilemma. So I think that would look nicer, but if I use this one, which echoes what we've got over at St. Mark, and then just build island platforms like this and like that, and then if I just go island platforms, and we'll build something like bench, 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 planter. In fact, we'll go sign, sign, sign. Then we'll go bench, bench, and then that will be a planter, and then we'll have a CTA, and then we'll have a dispatch cabin, something like that. Providing I build all the switches and things here correctly and signal it all properly, we should be able to have terminating trains come into here as well. It's just a bit trickier to do because of the way it'll all be set up. But yeah, I don't see why not. Here we'll just have planter and planter, and then on the northern side we'll have something like a schedule. And then here we'll have schedules. We'll have that and that, like so. And then we'll have different type of CTA, I suppose, for here and here and here and here. And then we'll go back up for planters there and there. And then these kiosks maybe. If I put these at the end, and we can have that and that. That works. Works quite well. And then in the middle section, whoops, the middle section here, we'll just have something like this and something like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And then same with this one, and the same with this one. Quite happy with that. And we'll need a name for this station as well. Probably not something Exchange though, because that name's been done. So if you were thinking of that, please don't. Please don't. We've done that name. Let's try and go for a little bit of originality. That goes for me as well, of course. That's why I'm doing my absolute darndest to not copy Gardcity, which I'm probably doing a very bad job of actually executing, but there you go. Right, choose this one, and we'll go along, 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 and along. In fact, I think it needs to come out one more in order for this to work. I hate this planning track because the images don't match up. Right, try again. So if you come out of this platform here, you should be able to cross over like... See, this is the trick. This is the trick. So if you're up in these platforms and you're reversing, you'll come down here along, and then you should be able to come across like this. So let's say you don't come out like that. Let's say you keep coming down like this. And this one you keep coming down like this. And then on this one, you go across an extra, and then a gap, and then across again, and across again. You can now get onto the opposite tracks. It's just you only have the option of one track. But I suppose, I mean, it depends how many conflicting services there are. That might not necessarily be a bad thing. Then if we build some kind of grand bridge over on this side of things. Let's see, we'll put one there. We'll go with something nice like a cantilever. So now I'm sort of doubting myself. Like, how many bridges do I want? Do I want 2 track? Maybe we should just go with the old-fashioned viaduct. Keep things nice and simple. I think that'll do. Nice simple viaduct. Quite happy with that. And then all of this stuff here will be water. And then all along here, water. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like the look of that. Demolish all this. Demolish all of this. This will be bridges going across to here. And again, viaducts. Although before we do that, we've got to do the extension up at this end. So if you're coming out of here, you'll cross over there, and then you'll cross over here. And in the opposite direction, which is this one, just do scissors maybe? I think that's too predictable. I think we did do it like this. And then if we lift this up by another one, then we should have a good gap here for a bridge. Okay. So how many platforms is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What I might do in the future is here, depending on the length of trains we're going to have running on the network, split this platform, sort of set of platforms into 2, and then we can have more trains arriving and departing at the same time. It's an idea that George De Silva gave me, actually, is to go back and retrofit stations. I like that idea. I'd quite like to do that idea. So what have we done on the episode title? On the episode planned site of second city. Start building towns on city site. Connect all road grids and plan station sites. Well, we've planned one of the station sites here. We're going to plan 2 more. One on the northern edge here, one on the southern edge here, with terminating platforms in all directions. The experiment, I'm pleased to say, that we attempted over at here. I just want to double check actually. I was about to say it was successful, but maybe it wasn't. Where are you trying to go? Right, why can't you go into a platform then? What's the problem? Oh, because of the signal that you're at. Right, hang on, let me unpause the game for a second. And let me do this. Yeah, I did have some problems. I'll be totally honest with you guys. I had some problems. Hopefully, they're fixed. That's what I was going to say. And yeah, they do seem to have been fixed. We have a lot of train flow problems going on here as well. I think you're trying to get into the depot, are you not? No? Where are you trying to go? It's Unity waypoint number 4, which should be over here. So I think you're just waiting for that train to get out of the way, and then you'll be on your merry way. Okay, so some of this worked, some of it didn't. I like the train sounds. They sound different. Sound very different. I also just noticed I never put a connecting track there. Alright, we're going to go back to normal track for this now. I think I'm quite happy with the station that we've built over here, so I might as well convert it into at least normal rail track like this, and then in the future to whatever form of electrification we're going to use. Because we're going to use overhead, we're going to use third rail, all that stuff. So might as well wait and see what we can do with that. Right, other station sites, yes. So there has to be one, not necessarily directly south. To be honest, I think I might build it, or at least one of the terminus stations here. So what will happen is, all of this will be cleared out, and I know I'm doing a lot of demolition here. And I know there are people that don't like it when I do lots of demolition, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Right, so let's say we dig all this out still. And we're going to do a bit of a London Bridge, Waterloo East, Charing Cross, Cannon Street kind of arrangement, where there will be, well, let me show you. We'll do it like this. So we'll have a line that breaks off here. We'll also have a line that breaks off here, one that breaks off here, and one that breaks off here. All of these will join up like that and like that. In fact, I think we can come back a tile and connect it all up. What am I doing? That one, and that one, and that one. There we go. And then this will all be elevated, of course. This will be brought out like this. And then we'll have another big station, or big-ish station here at Senningbury. And then we'll have something similar up on the north side, but maybe a little bit further away. But as well as having these lines do this, we're also going to have lines... Just trying to think of a way of doing this. Might have messed up a little bit here, actually. How tight can I make these turns? That's the question. Because if I do this and this, take all these back, start again. Because we're going to need to have signals like that. And then you're going to come down like that, you're going to come down like that, you're going to come down like that, and you're going to come down like that. And then we connect these up again like so. And then here we're going to have you go in like that. This one's going to come out like this. This one's going to come out like this. And then that should be all the lines connected up. Should be. And then this will run somewhere south. Haven't decided yet. There's also then a possibility of you be a definite out, and then all of these can be multi-directional. Should we do that across? I suppose we can. And then here I can go across like that and across like that, and then that's all of that side unlocked. Likewise over here, these are all ins. And then this is out. Hang on. You're a definite. Whoops. You're a definite out. You're an in out, in out, in out. There we go. That should work. All right. And then over here, we're going to build the station site. So again, it'll be raised. Lots of bridges. Might as well call this Bridge City because there's going to be a lot of bridges. Maybe we'll have a district, something to do with bridges. I don't know. I don't want to put ideas in your head. I want the ideas to be from you guys, not from me. This is an interactive series after all. That didn't work out. See, what I might do actually at this point is, I've done a lot of live building, I've done a lot of talking. You basically get the gist of what it is I'm trying to do now. So there's not really much left for me to explain. So what I might do at this point is go into a time lapse where you get to see me build the rest of these stations. It means I can then put some music on to help me concentrate whilst I'm building. And I think, yeah, I think overall that will be better than just me building here and getting frustrated with everything that's going on. Not that I normally get frustrated, of course. Never. Me frustrated? Never. That's never happened before. I will explain before I do start that, if I do decide to do that, of course, that all of these stations are going to be terminus/through stations. So by that I mean, if you look at stations like London Bridge, it's a good example. It's got terminus platforms, it's got through platforms. I think a better example though is Berlin Hauptbahnhof, and I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, by the way. Translates as central station, gives you a bit of a clue as to its locality within Berlin. It's the central station. There are terminus platforms and through platforms. They're all through platforms in terms of actual design, but some of them are used as terminating platforms, so trains will come in, particularly trains on the regional lines. They'll come in, terminate, and reverse back in the other direction. So why not use that as a model for this station? But yeah, I'm talking a lot, and I said I'd go into a time lapse, so there should be some music playing any second now, if not already. And I will get ready to cut me talking here and actually get into that. Before I do, I just want to finish building this little section of track here so you can get the gist of what it is I'm trying to do, because all the other stations will be built with this sort of model in mind. So they're not going to be identical, of course, because that would be stupid. What's the point of doing that? I want each of my stations to have their own identity. But it is nice to be able to just build one station and then use very similar designs for the rest of the stations on the network. The other thing I was going to say is one of the reasons I put two central roads here is to be able to run freight trains through. Because this is going to be a town where there's going to be a lot of emphasis on freight movements, and being able to run freight along the same lines as the passengers isn't necessarily a bad thing, particularly if it's a constantly flowing track. Anyway, I've talked for a long time, very long time, so I'm going to stop talking, I'm going to let the music take over, and I'll do some pre-recorded audio on top of that, because I do have some conversation topics I want to talk about as well. So it only makes sense to be able to do them in a time lapse where I can actually focus on what I'm talking about and not just have to focus on what I'm building. So yep, music started, and I will talk to you guys again in just a second. Okay, here we go into the time lapse. I'm just saving the audio. There we go. Right, this is a big construction project. Lots of new stations are being built, many of which still haven't yet been finished. So when I come back in the next episode, I'd have done some more building work off camera, so you guys get to see what's going on there as well. The overall result, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's still a bit too difficult to tell at this point because it's still so early in the process. I haven't filled all the towns and cities in and all that stuff yet, so whether this actually works or not, who knows. The only way we'll be able to find out is when we actually start running test trains and things like that, which we'll probably do at some point in the future. For now though, I'm going to go through the conversation topics that I've actually got available. So the first one was a comment from last week's video. Let me get it up on my screen. Frank Berry. I think there was one from Ben de Roche as well. Oh yes, yeah. I think I might have mentioned this before actually, but it was to do with splitting the map up into different regions with big bodies of water between countries. I'm tempted to start up a secondary OpenTTD series with that in mind. I think it's too difficult to implement on this map now. And I really don't want to stop this map until I've completely finished it to a standard that, you know, basically when every single corner of the map is served by at least road, rail, air and sea. which is technically all 4. But there you go. That's my target for finishing this series. Well, finishing this map even. Even then, I might actually start a new series with a new map, just so that there's not thousands and thousands of episodes all under the same name, when in actual fact they're all on different maps. So we'll see about that. Peter Evans also said some stuff as well about the Patreon video. I won't go into too much detail with that, though. It's mainly advice and stuff, so thank you very much for that comment as well. Everything that you guys said in those videos I've taken on board. I've come up with a structure. I will do a separate Patreon video in the future, so do look out for that. Because if you want to get involved with Patreon, and if you want to get the perks that come with that, because there's a lot of perks on my Patreon page that apply directly to this series, so keep an eye out for when that goes up. But Frank Berry put a comment saying, as a discussion topic, the Rails response to the recent bad weather. So for those of you who don't live in the UK, we had snow last week and the week before. And as usual, when it snows in England, the entire country ground to a halt. Now, I've got mixed opinions on this, because on the one hand, I do think it's bad. I saw a YouTube video quite recently. I'll see if I can find it, and I might put a link in the description if I can find it again, of trains on the Kent lines. I can't remember which one it was. It was on the London to Faversham route. I'm trying to remember which station he was at, but it was Class 375s and Class 395s, which are the Javelins and the Electrostars. And it was basically a video showing how they were struggling to pick up power. So the video starts with him on a train heading towards this station. I really am racking my brains trying to remember which station it was. It's not that important to the story, to be honest. But the train kept losing power, the lights kept going out, the train kept stopping and starting up again. And then he got to the station and he was showing different trains coming through. So the first train which he filmed leaving the station was a Javelin. And it took nearly an hour before it got out of sight. So it's a relatively straight piece of track, and then it goes around a right-hand bend. By the time the video finished, which was an hour after it started, there's cats flying outside my window now, that's great. By the time the video ended, which was about an hour in terms of time from when it started, the train had just about disappeared from view. So that's pretty bad. I'll talk you through the sciences of that in a second. But there was another train that arrived on the other line just after a de-icing train had gone through, and that train had no problems. It arrived and left perfectly fine. The only problems it did have was it was held up by the train in front of the de-icing train, because the line hadn't been de-iced before that train decided to make it sound like it's a sentient being. That train was running on the line, and I think all 3 trains were cancelled in the end, which isn't great. There were a lot of complaints, particularly around my area, and also on the Great Eastern Main Line. There are a lot of trains cancelled that people think shouldn't have been cancelled. And the social media, I'm trying to remember, I think it's the Chief Liaisons Officer or something of, I think it was Greater Anglia. I'm going by memory. So if I'm wrong, don't correct me, because it basically applies to all of the train operating companies. Someone was brave enough to come in front of a news camera anyway, and they said they understood why people were upset and things like that. However, safety first, and that's the key point really that I want to emphasize, particularly in the UK. Now, I'm not saying that every other country in the world wouldn't do this, but the UK has an impeccable safety record when it comes to railways. To my knowledge, there's only been one fatality caused by rail accidents since 2009, and that was in the Grey Rig derailment. I might be wrong by that. I know 7 people died in the tram crash in Croydon a couple of years ago, but I'm not 100% sure whether that's classed as a rail accident, because technically yes, trams run on rails, but I think that comes under a different category, as it were. The point is, we have a really good safety record in the UK in terms of railways, and that's exactly why these trains were cancelled, because yes, the trains probably could have operated, but it wouldn't have been operating safely. Any loss of traction at all means the brakes don't no longer work. If there's a power supply issue, if there's arcing on the rails, particularly at stations, it makes it all very, very unsafe. So I'm glad that I didn't have to catch a train over the last couple of weeks, because I probably would have been annoyed had they been cancelled, but I do totally understand why they were cancelled. I think the right decisions were made. The thing I was going to say about though is the third rail. It's a unique system of collecting current. It's mainly used around the world in light rail scenarios. The S-Bahn, the U-Bahn in Germany, they tend to use a third rail collection system. There are a couple of lines in and around New York where the lines are running underground, so they use a diesel-electric hybrid type locomotive. I think they're the ED40s or the GM40s. I'm sure there's a 40 in their name somewhere. And that's so that there isn't diesel fuel emissions in the tunnels. So again, it's for health and safety reasons. They pick up current off a third rail, although their power output is significantly lower when they are operating electrically rather than via diesel. That being said, the diesel generators do power electric motors that run the train. They're diesel electric locomotives. But when there's ice, and particularly when it's sub-zero temperatures, so in the UK, yes, it was snowing, but the temperature is the problem. Because the temperature was, I think it was -5 on average a couple of weeks ago, any water that lands on the third rail instantly turns to ice, just freezes. And there's nothing you can really do about that unless you heat the rails. You'd think at this day and age there would be a system for that. I know in countries like Canada, and I think we do have it over here as well actually, they do heat the track underneath points and switches to stop the point blades from freezing. And I think there are other scenarios where that happens as well. But yeah, the third rail having ice on it is what's causing the loss of power, because there's no connection then between the third rail shoe and the third rail itself. Effectively the third rail is isolated, which is why if you do watch videos of these trains trying to pick up power, you'll see the arcing and these huge sparks fly out. There's no problem with the train and there's no problem with the rail. It's just those little moments where there's ice between the shoe and the rail and the electricity is arcing around it. That's the spark that you see. It also produces ozone, so if you smell that like burning motor type smell, that's ozone, that's O3. It's quite a nice smell actually, I quite like it. You get it a lot when there's overhead wiring and a train goes past, and you can, particularly when it's been raining, there's like blue sparks and you can smell the ozone. I'm not sure it's healthy to be sniffing ozone though, so don't do it excessively. Anyway, that's a distraction. So I think the UK responded about as well as you'd expect the UK to respond to any adverse weather conditions. Like I say, once the de-icing train had run through on that particular section of line, they have, I'm trying to think, they'd probably be made of wood actually. They have something that scrapes along the third rail and clears all the ice off of it. And that's all well and good for getting rid of the ice, but because it started raining and because it was snowing as well, as soon as water made contact with the third rail, it would just instantly freeze. So, I mean, it's difficult really, because I live in an area where it's all overhead electrification. So the reason the trains were cancelled around here was ice on the rails themselves, which meant the trains have no traction, which is a problem when you're trying to accelerate, but it's a massive problem when you're trying to brake and the train just keeps sliding. That's also incidentally why leaves on the line is actually a genuine I nearly said excuse, genuine reason why trains don't run in the UK in autumn. Excuse me, in autumn. Because certain types of leaves, when they get on the track, they turn to mulch, and it just makes the railhead really, really slippery. So again, you either run the train really, really slowly and it's 3 hours late to its final destination, or you cancel the train and don't run the risk at all. And because of the safety record we have in the UK, particularly with Network Rail, because they're very, very big on safety now, every time, I mean, there were inquiries back in the day when there were incidents, but every time now there's anything that could result in a serious accident, there is always an investigation, and it always takes a long time. I believe the inquiry for the Croydon tram crash is still ongoing. We take rail safety very, very seriously over here. And again, I'm not saying that other countries around the world don't, but I do know that different countries operate different regulations depending on the weather. And here in the UK, we don't take any chances. So yeah, like I say, I think the UK responded well in terms of the de-icing trains were out very, very quickly. Passengers were advised not to travel unless they absolutely had to. You know, the proper precautions were taken. Trains ended up having to be cancelled still, which is a shame, but for the right reasons. So hopefully that's answered your question. If not, just let me know in the comments of this video, and for Friday's episode, if there is an episode on Friday, I'll talk about that in a second as well. I'll try and explain it a little bit better. I'm going to talk very briefly now about what you're seeing on screen, because as I've said previously in this episode, I'm actually recording the audio the right way around this time as well, which is nice. This part of the map, and this city in particular, is heavily inspired by not just Germany but Berlin rail. Now there's that diamond junction in the middle there that's not inspired by anything in particular, and to be honest I don't think it's that realistic. I think the curves would be a lot wider in real life. But this is also inspired by the lines coming out of Waterloo and London Bridge and meeting at Clapham Junction. So eventually we're going to have a complete circuit line which is going to run through the station that you're seeing now. It's then going to run south through the central station, and then it's going to turn west again through the first station that you saw me build in this time lapse, and then eventually it will curve up and it will rejoin this line at the little bit that I've just built there. You'll see that happen in just a second. Now I've got to be careful about directly referring to things on screen because I'm not quite sure how long this time lapse is going to last. I don't think it lasts much longer, to be honest, so I might have to start speeding up my speech a bit more. There are loads and loads of stations that I've built, all of them in different styles. All but one of them is on an embankment, one is in a cutting. There's lots of demolition. The station that I'm about to build to the south here, there is a lot of demolition, so I do apologise to those that don't like watching me bulldoze people's houses. You're going to see a lot of bulldozing in just a second, so viewer discretion is advised, I think is what I would say to that. There are lots of main stations. As I said before, they will all be counted as terminus stations as well as through stations, so some trains will continue through the central section. Some trains in particular will run from the north section to the south section and continue on down the south coastline. Particularly trains, not so much from Gardcity, but from other big stations along the route, some of which haven't been built yet, which is why I'm not really naming them. The line to the east is a suburban line. It's mainly going to be used for commuter traffic, so I haven't built massive stations on that line. But the north and south have got the two biggest stations. This is probably one of the biggest outside of the actual central area. And then to the west there's a couple of intermediate stations as well. Now there is an intermediate station that I've built to the north. Even if trains don't stop there, they will still run through the platforms. Otherwise, you know, there'll be only one line in and out for the express trains, which would be a bit stupid. Again, it's probably inspired by Finsbury Park, which I know Plintbridge Parkway is supposed to be as well. But they're both built via the same inspiration but in different styles, if that makes sense. So they do have their own little identities as well. And hopefully that comes across quite nicely on screen. But yeah, as I was saying, some trains will run through the core of the city, even if they then terminate at the southern station and then run back. That does happen in Berlin. I'm trying to remember the names of the stations. So you've got Berlin Hauptbahnhof, which is Berlin Central Station. Then you've got Ostkreuz, I think it is, and Südkreuz. I'm butchering the pronunciation. And I think there's a west version as well, which I think is just Westkreuz. Yeah, I'm guessing. And then there's a station to the north as well, but I think it has a different name. The intercity traffic, so the ICEs, I've always called them ICE trains, but apparently you are supposed to call them ICEs, Intercity Express. I think you can call them ICE, why not? Who's going to get upset about that? I think even the people that run the service, you know, Deutsche Bahn, I believe even they call them ICE trains. So anyway, point is, they run through Hauptbahnhof to the north station or to the south station. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the south one. And then they run back through the central section and up to the north or the east or the west, whichever direction they happen to be going in. That's kind of what's going to happen here. So some trains will run through the central section and terminate at the centre station. Some will run from the south to the north, terminate there and run back through to the south. Some will run from the north to the south, terminate there and then run back to the north. Same with the west and the east. There's so many different varieties of stopping patterns that we can have now. And that's what I'm most pleased about with this. And I really wish I had the forethought to plan that when I was doing Gardcity. Was take into account all these suburban lines and how some trains won't necessarily be going in the same directions and all that kind of stuff. Really adds some variety to the destinations that each station can serve. Also, having them as both through platforms and terminus platforms means that every platform can be used. There's no limitations, which is also quite nice. This line that I'm building on screen now is the loop line that I was talking about. So it curves back up to the north here, and then it joins up again. It runs alongside the slow line at the moment, but eventually it will join up. There will be an intermediate station or something that it will join up with. Right, I can see the time lapse is coming to an end. Luckily I've got the footage up on the screen in front of me so I can see how long is left. Like I said, there might not be an episode on Friday. At the moment, with everything that's going on in outside of YouTube and outside of university, there's a lot of family stuff going on at the moment. I sort of touched on it last week. I won't touch on it too much right now. One day in the future, when it's all done and dusted, I will sit down and talk to you guys a bit more about it, just so you're aware of what's been going on. But because of that, it means that there is always a risk that Friday's episode won't happen. The reason I do it like that is at the weekend things tend to quieten down a bit, so I have plenty of time to record videos. Like I'm recording this on Sunday night at the moment, so I've always got plenty of time to get it done and dusted. But during the week, I have work commitments, I have uni commitments, I have all that other stuff. The pre-recorded episodes on the other series are still going up. I recorded those weeks and months in advance, which is why that is the case. So I do apologise for anyone who's wondering why there's Football Manager videos constantly going up, but there aren't videos in this series. It's mainly because this series is always recorded in advance. Not in advance, sorry. Either the day before or 2 days before it's supposed to go up. So hopefully you guys understand that. If you want to know whether or not there will be an episode Friday, the easiest thing for me to suggest is follow me on Twitter. Because whether it be Thursday or Friday itself, I will always tweet out if there's not going to be a video, and I will always try and explain why as well. So follow me on Twitter. You can also like the Facebook page or join the Facebook group, because I think it's the group that my tweets get posted to as well, so you'll be able to see on there also. But that, I think, is it for this episode. Next episode, whether it be Friday or Monday, we'll carry on working on this new city, and we'll start planning where the lines are actually going to go from the city, so we get a little bit of a better idea as to what the actual shape of the main lines are going to look like. But until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. Also head over to the name suggestions if you want to name a section of this city. Check out the Patreon as well, because there's a tier levels, as I said, on there, and some of those tier levels involve naming parts of the network or main lines or franchises, depending on how much you pledge on Patreon. So do check that out if that's something that interests you. Besides that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.